12. Again, Houston. He's got a hole. He's over. Alabama touchdown.
I just wondered if your listeners know how good a football player you were, man. I can still see you playing that fullback under those flares out and the way that I believe I could have run behind you.
Martin, I can remember when we played the Stella, and you played fullback up there. And I saw you in the weight room and watched you work out in the weight room. And you were strong enough to pick up the whole weight room. I wanted to fix it, and I ran that first thing back fast. Biggest mistake we ever made.
The Martin Houston Show with national championship winning fullback Martin Houston, giving you 1 hour of intense, hard-hitting analysis from an insider's perspective. It's time for the Martin Houston Show on your home for Alabama sports, Tide 100.9, and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Good morning. Welcome into the Martin Houston Show on Tide 100.9 on your radio dial. The Martin Houston Show fan page can be found at Martin Houston Live on Facebook as well as on YouTube. Also simulcasting on several other Facebook channels, including Tide 109, the Alabama Tradition, and my personal page at Martin Houston. Also, you can find us at Martin Houston 35 on Twitter. And you're able to interact with us in all those various outlets via chat. Send it to us. We'll get it into the conversation. Also, you're able to interact with us at 205-342-9904. That's the Alabama One hotline. Alabama One hotline is open for business. We'd love to get you in on the conversation. Coming off of an interesting weekend for Alabama sports. Somewhat shocking results from the weekend for Alabama softball, but also good news for Alabama baseball and a couple former Alabama players making some noise in their respective sports. We'll report that. We'll talk about that. And, of course, the conversation from Nick Saban and Jimbo Fisher. There's been a gag order, but that doesn't mean that all the conversation is over. And, a little time to think about it. You look at the two coaches in their response. Jimbo Fisher, the notorious 9-3, 8-4 coach, and what he had to say, to me, it was at an embarrassment for Texas A&M. As a parent, as a recruit, does that make you more likely to want to play for him or less likely? Did Deion Sanders, who was in that same conversation, did he handle his response much better, much more professional? And would his response make you more likely to want to be associated with his program? With that said, what's really behind Nick Saban and his comments? Did Nick Saban accidentally or on purpose drop those dimes on those respective coaches? So we'll talk about that. We'll dig deeper into it. We haven't got Mason's response to it, so we will do that today as well. Before we move forward in the program, I want to remind you that this is a day that the Lord has made, so let's rejoice and be glad in it. Take some time today to notice someone, love someone, serve someone, be the difference you want to see in the world today. Good morning, Mason. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing great this morning, Martin. It was quite the eventful weekend, with this whole Saban and Jimbo saga. It kind of gave me stuff to pay attention to every day, so it's been nice.
Yeah, you can't, when it's May and before SEC media days and after spring practice, you can't really ask for much better football news than what we've had. So we're going to dig into that. But before we do that, let's give a shout out to a couple former Alabama players a former Alabama golfer, Justin Thomas. I thought it was ironic that they were just talking about how he kind of burst onto the scene with his initial major win at a PGA championship and how he's been cold since that point. But thanks to a fellow golfer blowing up on the 18th hole yesterday, Justin and was able to get into a 3-player playoff in the golf world and win his second major tournament. And of course, it was the second time winning the PGA. So kudos to Justin Thomas and that big win and what he was able to accomplish there. And then, of course, Bo Scarborough shines with the Birmingham Stallions and does a great job there, Mason. And want to remind everybody that want to find out more details or specifics of what all Bo was able to accomplish. There's an article at tide109.com that you wrote, but Bo looked like kind of a man amongst boys as you watch that game Saturday, and you just kind of wonder why he could. The way he played there, you wonder why he can't do that and help a team win at the NFL level.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a perfectly valid. It's kind of one of those things where I thought he looked pretty decent when he got a brief opportunity there with the Lions. I think he started 4 or 5 games for him. Not last year, I think the year
before it, yeah.
And he looked pretty decent. I want to say he had almost. I think he averaged almost 100 yards a game. He had like 90 yards a game.
Yep.
So he just kind of really hasn't gotten an opportunity. I don't know if it's because of his injury history. A lot of people are worried to take a chance on him again, but he looked good to me.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like you kind of look and go, okay, if there's, let me see, because you have to think about it. With there being at least probably 3 running backs per team, it's hard to believe that there's 90-something guys better than him. You know what I mean? Like if he's a third team guy or even on somebody's practice squad, which would make it be 100, and maybe this is what he needs, because when you really think about it, Bo hasn't played a lot of football because of injuries, right? So even though he's older and all that, he didn't have a lot of mileage from football wear and tear on his body, and he hasn't played a lot of football. You think about back to his days here, even his senior year at Alabama, Mason, when we were headed to that national championship with Jalen Hurts as a freshman quarterback. Everybody forgets that, Bo was the hero in that game up until that point, but Bo had not been the starter all year. That was Damian Harris had been the starter, and then Bo kind of was taking over at the end, and then, of course, when Bo went out, it was almost like we forgot that Damian Harris was on the team. That was Sarkisian's first game as an OC, and it was almost like we forgot that we had Damian, who had been the starter all year. We threw the ball, I think, 31 times with Jalen that game. And Jalen I don't know if Jalen threw the ball 31 times any other time in the rest of his career. And we were leading the entire game. So anyway, as a sidebar, I'm going to jump back on the story at hand. But Bo looked good. I think this was his second game with the Stallions. So maybe this parlays him into another opportunity at the next level. And that's kind of what the purpose of the USFL has. You got anything else on that before I move on?
One thing I wanted to, I saw, I was watching the game. Obviously, I was pretty locked into watching Bo play. I think it's been a lot of fun. I've gotten, while it's not the NFL, obviously, I've gotten pretty invested in the Stallions. Honestly, it's pretty good football. I really am enjoying it. But I think it's very cool just to see Bo. I think the Stallions posted several videos to their Twitter account of him kind of just talking and cutting it up with some guys on the team. And it seems like he's just having a really good time out there. It's just really nice to see, especially for a guy like him who's battled with so many injuries and things like that. It's great to just see him having fun.
Yeah, and that's right. And hopefully, like I said, hopefully it works out for him. So, let me see the other shocking news probably would be Alabama softball. but that's kind of the concern that everyone had with the softball. The bats betrayed them at the worst time. Just couldn't get past Stanford, and what a shocker! Alabama had won 44 straight regional game up until Stanford took care of business. So that's kind of a crazy thought process there, but don't want to underestimate how difficult what they've done is and how we've kind of come to expect uh, what they've done. That 44 game win streak, and they've never lost a regional here, right? Am I correct in saying that? Not only until yesterday, not only did they have a 44 game win streak, they never uh, ever lost a regional that they hosted till yesterday. So
Yeah, I believe this is the first year that they're going to miss the super regionals in the program history, I believe.
yeah, so that's kind of a shocker, but hey, it happens. But Montana Fouts, she still did well when given opportunity, just didn't have enough support. And Virgil Williams saying Murphy needs to hire a hitting coach. Our hitting was atrocious. I think that would kind of be the sentiment of everyone. And, in softball, if you have a pitcher, you have to have, if you don't have a pitcher, you have no chance. If you have a pitcher, you at least have to have Mason some timely hitting. And Alabama consistently this year, once the pitching that they were facing got better, their hitting was not very consistent nor timely at all in the big games, and it finally caught up to them. But kudos to the team for what most people would take as a successful season, Mason. But at Alabama, the standard is high, and it's no different. What he's done on the softball field is no different than Alabama losing in an SEC championship game. This is kind of, would you say it's kind of that same thought process? We'd be shocked if we had a chance to go to a national title game and didn't make it to that first round of the playoffs. It kind of be that same level of loss on the football field as it is on the softball diamond.
Yeah, certainly. I think Patrick Murphy, he's kind of built up that. Well, while he only has the one title in 2012, he kind of built up that championship, aura or mentality around the program to where the fans kind of come to expect that Alabama's going to be competing for them. And obviously it's disappointing to see the year end as early as it has now.
Yeah, and I know he only has the one championship, but to me that's kind of like Calipari at Kentucky. He's only had the one championship at Kentucky, but is viewed as one of the best basketball coaches in the game. And I think Murphy is the same way at Alabama when it comes to softball. I think he's not single-handedly, but I think his success and the way he recruited changed women's softball in the South and east of the Mississippi River, because now the SEC is a contender, and it's not just Alabama, and I think he kind of raised the water level or raised the tide, if I can use that pun, for the rest of the SEC and softball outside of the West Coast and that the west of the Mississippi, because he was the first one to get it to this side of the Mississippi, and since that time, there's been a couple other SEC schools to get into the big dance and even bring home a couple championships. So, kudos to go ahead.
I think it's worth noting that, you mentioned recruiting. This year, this past season, heading into this year was, I think, his best recruiting class that he's had since he's been here, or his biggest since he's been here. So this could very well be the team that, give him another year of experience under their belt, another 2 year. Like this could be the team that kind of does it. This is a very, very talented group of girls. I think they just lack some of the experience this year.
Yeah, and like I said, the hitting, the speed of the game, and everything like that will have to catch up. Pitching will have to still be there. So, that's the key. And Curtis Lewis, as we go to break here, said it wasn't a shocker. Poor coaching all the way around, especially not having more than one pitcher developed and no hitting coach on staff. Well, when I say shocker, I'm not talking about from this team per se. Even when Murph hasn't had necessarily the best team, his best team, he's still been able to get past the regional. So not a shocker that this team didn't advance in the sense of, we talked about it last week, Mason, after the SEC and Mizzou putting them out. We said if this team doesn't correct the hitting, then they'll be heading home, and that's exactly what happened. So yeah, he has some opportunities to improve coaching staff, development wise, and as you said, has a lot of talent, but he has to develop that talent on the mound and at the plate. We'll see if he's able to do it for next year, but until then, kudos to the Alabama softball Crimson Tide softball team for their 2022 season. We'll start watching them late in the fall and then jump back on board with them next spring. Coming back on the other side, we're going to start talking about Nick Saban. More on Nick Saban. A former coach speaks up. Feinbaum patting himself on the back, thinking he knows exactly why Saban's saying what he said. And Sankey issues the gag order. And we'll see what else happens with the Jimbo Fisher, Nick Saban saga coming up next, right here on the Martin Houston Show.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
From the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center on a rainy Monday morning, we've got a wreck on McFarland. This is eastbound before Rose Boulevard. Single vehicle, but authorities are out there cleaning up the mess right now. If you see a condition, please give a call. Now get a lifetime.
Silver Star Casino. Get tickets now at PearlRiverResort.com. The Oak Ridge Boys Singing Tour. Must be 21.
It's the perfect season for a powerful business upgrade with Dell Technologies Summer Sale Event. Save up to 45% on secure PCs built for business with Windows 10 Pro. You'll also find great savings on Dell servers, monitors, docks, and other accessories to help boost productivity. Plus, enjoy free shipping on everything. Do more with modern devices and Windows 10 Pro. Call 877-ASK-DELL for a Dell Technologies advisor.
Okay.
Tech. That's 877-ASK-DELL for business specials during Dell's Summer Sale Event.
I always wanted to learn Spanish, but I never thought I'd have the time. Then I discovered Babbel.
Babbel's lessons are fun. They only take like 10 or 15 minutes, and in 3 weeks, presto, you're speaking another language, like magic.
I love that Babbel's lessons aren't just robots talking. They're voiced by native speakers, so you get the pronunciation just right. If you want to learn a language, there's no faster, easier, better way than
Babbel.
Babbel.
Babbel. Go to Babbel.com to try for free. That's Babbel.com. Babbel.com.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
It's got mostly cloudy today and tonight with scattered to numerous showers and thunderstorms. The high today 80, tonight's low 64. Tomorrow and Wednesday, mostly cloudy both days with occasional showers and storms around. Highs between 79 and 82. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3240 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 71 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
Scott Smith and Sophomart Design, doing business for 17 plus years, specializing in graphic design services, commercial printing, promotional products, advertising specialties, and so much more. Basically, any and everything you would need to advertise, promote, and grow your business. Through strong partnerships,
but also the layered ends and all that. We used to do a lot of stuff that we call men, a lot of layered ends.
Email scott@contents.net and visit them online at softmartdesign.com.
Interact with the Martin Houston Show by calling us at 205-342-9904. Tuning into the Martin Houston Show on Facebook.
From a coaching perspective, Coach Saban ties Coach Bryant with 6 national titles. Can you kind of put a feeling behind that from a coaching perspective?
It's really kind of amazing. It's kind of one of those wild moments. It really is, because no one ever thought you'd ever get there. You can do it in today's time and the way the game is and the scholarship limitations and what he's done. It's really amazing. He's done a heck of a job. That's why I wanted to come by and make sure I told him about it. The changes he made and give his kids a chance to win was amazing.
All right. That's Jimbo Fisher talking about the narcissist, the God complex dude that he labeled last week, the one that needs to be slapped across the face. Jimbo Fisher stood outside the locker room. According to Ryan Fowler, I don't know exactly how long it was, for about an hour. In case you all missed it, I'm gonna play that one more time, and I want you to listen to what Jimbo Fisher said about Nick Saban when he was asked by Ryan Fowler of the game right here on Tide 109 following the Alabama win over Georgia that tied Nick Saban with Coach Bryant. Here's what Jimbo Fisher had to say about his former boss, who he can't stand, who cheats, who doesn't do it the right way, who is a narcissist, who is despicable. Play it one more time, Mason.
From a coaching perspective, Coach Saban ties Coach Bryant with 6 national titles. Can you kind of put a feeling behind that from a coaching perspective?
It's really kind of amazing. It's kind of one of those wild moments. It really is, because no one ever thought you'd ever get there. And to do it in today's time and the way the game is and the scholarship limitations and what he's done, it's really amazing. He's done a heck of a job. That's why I wanted to come by and make sure I told him about it. The changes he made and give his kids a chance to win was amazing.
Mason, based on what you heard last week, do you think that if Saban had done things the way Jimbo made it sound last week, that there's any way that the previous conversation is legit? What we just heard. If Saban has been a cheater, he's done things the wrong way the whole time, is there any possibility that Jimbo Fisher overlooks that? I mean, he waited. He waited to have that conversation. He waited outside and he was talking about Coach Saban and how awesome he did. And he said, and because what he did in this time and era when scholarships are limited, he wanted to make sure that he told him how proud he was of him. I mean, he literally said that he wanted to congratulate his former boss. Let me show you what else he remember how he described Nick Saban he said he's a narcissist. He said we've made him a god. The only reason he does it is because he has more resources than everybody else. Here's another comment from that same interview. Ryan Fowler and a couple other reporters got of Jimbo Fisher after the national championship. Let's listen to how he describes Nick Saban when he's not on a personal rampage. Here's Jimbo Fisher once again describing his horrible, Mason, cheating, narcissistic, God complex boss. Right here, Jimbo Fisher.
Nick is a super guy, great personality, and he's very flexible. He's flexible for the right reasons. He's a lot of deep thought into what he does.
Yeah, can you talk about his adaptability and how it's,
He has a feel for the game and the momentum of things, and he understands the big picture of the game. He sees the thing in a very wide view, and he's able to make those calls. He's not scared to make those calls. Coach, what?
Mason, what do you think about that? Good guy.
It's a very, very different sentiment. Man, Martin, this situation to me, it really feels like something where Jimbo took this just very, very personally. And I don't think Saban meant it as any kind of personal attack. I think he was just saying, what he felt. I don't think this was ever meant to be a personal attack against Jimbo and the way he runs his program. I think it was more of speaking out against just the way that he doesn't like the trend of college football. The way that college football is going in general, rather than a specific attack on Jimbo and Texas A&M. But I think from Jimbo's perspective, he took it really personally, and it hurt his feelings.
No, he took it personal because it was the truth. You have to listen to Nick Saban's words. Nick Saban didn't say he cheated. Nick Saban said he bought every player. Okay? He said he bought every player. He followed up with what he meant by bought every player. He said he got every one of those guys in name, image, and likeness deal, right? When Jimbo responded, did Jimbo ever say that we did not get every player on our team an NIL deal in this recruiting class? He didn't say that, right? What did Deion do when Deion responded? First of all, Deion recognized that Deion said he used us as pawns in talking to his boosters. Then Deion said, number two statement Deion said is that the young man doesn't have $1 million deal, right? He addressed specifically what Saban said instead of ranting and screaming and despicable and calling him names and all that stuff. He said this young man has 2 deals worth $250,000, which is $500,000 or whatever. Now, that doesn't mean that it's not going to come out to be $1 million yet either, by the way. And so Jimbo didn't listen. And of course, there's a former coach that made a statement about whether Nick Saban said anything wrong or not, and we'll talk about that on the other side. But let's get to Pat. Pat, you're in with the Martin Houston Show. What's on your mind, sir?
Good morning, Martin. Hey, the only thing Jimbo had to say Saban was West Texas Intermediate crude is up 76% since this time last year. Hey, end of story.
Do what?
Limited resources. That's all he had to say, Coach Saban.
He had to say what now? I'm sorry, I didn't understand what you said.
I said all he had to say was West Texas Intermediate light crude is up 76% since this time last year. It's $114 a barrel right now. He does got unlimited resources. He's going to buy every player. He's incredible the kind of resources they have in Texas.
But the thing about it is, Pat,
unless Coach Saban gets a lid on it, unless Coach can get Joe Biden to immediately say everybody in the country's got to buy an $80,000 electric car, we're in trouble, Martin.
Well, I don't know that we're in trouble because you still have to coach players and develop players. It starts with talent, but you still have to develop them. What people don't understand is the thing that to me that Nick Saban has done the most amazing is get guys to stay while they wait. Okay, nobody's talking about that side. Jimbo got how many 5 stars, Pat? 7. 7, right? Let's just say 7. Let's go in the middle. What happens this year when those players don't get on the field like he promised?
What happens when we beat the crap?
No. Forget us beating them. But what happens when those players don't get on the field in this new era?
Well, maybe their name, image, and likeness deals aren't as solid as they were.
Well, no. They're going to transfer, Pat. What people don't understand is the reason great teams stay great is because they figure out how to keep all those great players happy. Okay? You see it at the NFL level, you see it at the NBA level, you see it at all levels. When there's too much talent on one team, somebody gets upset and gets their feelings hurt. I don't know if you watch much basketball, but Steve Kerr with the Warriors managed when they had 4 superstars. When they had Durant, he managed to keep them happy. When they go back to 3 stars this year, he somehow manages to keep them happy. These guys, why has James Harden been on? Why did he leave Oklahoma? If he had stayed with Oklahoma when they had KD and Westbrook and him and a couple other guys, they would have won championships. But he was the 6th guy on that team, and he wanted to be the superstar. That's what Jimbo has not had to deal with. Jimbo has not had 5 stars in his entire time at Texas A&M, and he got 7 on one team. He's going to have a nightmare roster management with getting these guys out there playing, Pat, and then we're going to see what happens, how he manages that. You see what I'm saying? That's another whole aspect of what Saban does that no one talks about.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's going to be different for old Jimbo, and when he can't get them all out there and get them all happy and keep them all happy, somebody's going to be upset, and then there's going to be dissension in the locker room. Now, if he manages that process, he may be able to develop him into a consistent thing. But Pat, I'll let you respond. I'm going to ask this question on the other side. Do you think that Jimbo's rant made parents be like, this is the guy I want my kids to go play for? If he'll come out and respond like that, is that where I want my kid to play?
You're absolutely correct, Mark.
I mean, if I was a parent who had a kid, I'd be like, oh my God, if he reacts that way, what is he teaching? What is he teaching my kids? What is he teaching them?
Yeah.
Huh?
Is he teaching any character?
Right. I mean that was so bad. I mean, even if Saban was wrong, which he wasn't, by the way. Remember, Saban didn't say he cheated. Saban said he bought players, which by Texas law is okay.
Mm-hmm. Hey, one quick question before we go. Can you say Quinn Evers that at University of Texas and Ohio State that he got his NIL money from Ohio State, never played it down.
Well, he wasn't supposed to get the money because once again, there's an NC. This is what Saban is talking about. The NCAA rules, the only rules that they had in place around NIL was amateur status, maintaining, and it says that you cannot use money to entice a kid to come to your school. You cannot use money to lure someone away. You cannot pay a player for their performance on a field. In other words, you can't give them $100,000 if they get 1,000 yards or if they get 5 interceptions. And the third thing is you cannot pay them. It is a quid pro quo arrangement, or they lose their amateur status. And that means that they have to actually do something, go sign autographs, go make an appearance. They can't just be on the team. And that's what Nick Saban was talking about. And if everybody listened, Greg Sankey agreed with him. Greg Sankey said, we're seeing straight pay. That's what Sankey said. Everybody missed that statement. Huh? Well, he had that's what Saban's saying. Saban is saying right now the NCAA has these restrictions. Some states have the same restrictions. Some states don't have those restrictions. No one is talking about this, Pat. You know that there's an Alabama recruit. I was going to say this to the other side, but there's an Alabama recruit, Pat, that Alabama offered. And I'm not going to call the young man's name till it's verified publicly and all of that. But a top recruit in the state of Alabama was offered a scholarship from Alabama a little over a week ago, okay? A&M came in and made him an offer as well of a scholarship and an NIL deal. You know what the young man did? He came back to Alabama and asked them, what are y'all going to do to match the offer I just got from Texas A&M?
Wow.
Nobody's talking about that side of the story. That's what triggered Nick Saban to make that statement, Pat, because what he's saying is, I don't want to go down this road where we start bidding for players. We can't sustain being number 2 unless we play in that game. So alumni, get ready to pick up and pay. And SEC, you better do something to get us all on the same page. Nobody's talking about this. Kirby Smart said the same exact thing. And I'm going to read what he said, as Nick Saban said. The only difference is Kirby didn't call out the biggest cheater of it, and that's Texas A&M. That's the only difference between what Kirby said and what Saban said. We'll have that conversation on the other side right here on the Martin Houston Show. Thanks, Pat. Appreciate you.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
From the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center on a rainy Monday morning, we've got a wreck on McFarland. This is eastbound before Rose Boulevard. Single vehicle, but authorities are out there cleaning up the mess right now. If you see other conditions, please give me a call. Now get a lifetime powertrain warranty on any used car at no cost from Townsend Nissan. I'm Captain Ray.
Hello, this is Martin Houston with the Martin Houston Show, and I want to tell you about one of our great sponsors, Overflow Express Wash. Their mission is to provide great customer service with a showroom clean car and an exceptional customer service experience. They have the basic car wash that starts at $7, but you need to check out the premium wash packages, which start as low as $12 and go up to $20. They also have a membership wash club that you can get for starting at $23.99, going up to $39.99. In other words, it's double the regular premium package, drop a penny, and you can be one of the great members of Overflow Express Wash. My family and I keep our cars looking good inside and out by using Overflow Express Wash. They're located on Skyland Boulevard, right next door to Alabama 1, or you can find them online at overflowexpresswash.com. Andy Phillips and his team look forward to making you a part of their team.
In Joe Biden's America, inflation is out of control, interest rates are skyrocketing, and your grocery bill has nearly doubled. Folks in Tuscaloosa and Pickens counties are worried about how they will provide for their families. Well, Ron Bolton has a plan. Ron Bolton will cut taxes on small businesses and working families. Ron Bolton will fight back against D.C. and the liberal policies causing inflation. On May 24th, vote conservative Ron Bolton.
Paid for by Ron Bolton campaign. P.O. Box 632, Northport, Alabama 35476.
It's official. Summer is almost here. The sun is getting brighter, the days are getting longer, and your yard is ready for some love. Make sure your flower beds and bushes can handle the heat with special savings on Earth Grow mulch. Keep the sun off your soil and water in the ground, plus that fun pop of color that will last up to 12 months. Hurry in. Earth Grow mulch, 5 bags for just $10. Feels like Memorial Day at the Home Depot. How doers get more done. Valid May 19th to 30th. In store only. Color selection varies by store. Limit 75 per customer.
Nick Saban calls it the process. John Maxwell said that everything rises and falls on it. And Coach Wooden said it's what you learn after you think you know it all that makes the difference. What am I talking about? Leadership and personal development. Is your organization, your school, your church, your family, are they receiving the proper level of leadership development and personal development? If not, the Empowerment Center for Leadership and Mentoring can help you with that. We have our pep talks, which is a 1 to 1.5 hour lunch and learn, which we can customize to meet your needs, or we have some topics that we present that we know can help your organization. And if you're looking for one-on-one mentoring and coaching, we can also assist you with that. Visit peptalks35.com, that's peptalks35.com, or send an email to martin@martinhouston.org. That's the Empowerment Center for Leadership and Mentoring.
Welcome back to the Martin Houston Show, the sound of Bama sports. Your show, your team, on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
He gets it. I mean, adaptability is great for coaches over time. He does it. Where's Nick's place all the time? I mean, I'm a person. I don't think you can judge it. I'm not a. Do you dominate your era? He's definitely dominated his era at this time. That time was retired. You did that? No, I'll look forward to competing against him. It's fun to do it. He does a great job. But I mean, he's arguably you can put him in the top as good as ever been.
So he does a great job, but he's a cheater, a narcissist, and has a God complex. Jimbo, last week made you look bad, son. Nick Saban goaded you, literally, in his performance and in your response. Over the past few weeks, Mason, I've taught that that when it comes to success, it's 10% what happens to you and 90% how you respond to it. Deion Sanders won over a lot of people with his response. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. I thought his response was measured. I thought it was calculated. I thought he responded exactly the way Jimbo should have.
Yeah, I mean, and then I love it. When a man says, "Hey, let's have the conversation publicly," he probably feels pretty good that he can stand on what he's done. And that's what Deion called for. On the other hand, Jimbo simply leveled personal attack after personal attack. Did you hear what the old ball coach had to say, though? The old ball coach speaks up about about Jimbo and what's happening there. Here's what Steve Spurrier had to say, and then we'll get to George. He said, let me get to his exact quote. I don't know why Fisher is mad at Saban, Spurrier told Dog Nation. Did Saban say something that wasn't true? I don't think Saban told any lies in there, so I don't know what he was mad about, Spurrier said. Since Fisher beat him last year, I guess he can talk now. He hasn't beat much of anybody. Ouch. But he beat Saban last year, but they haven't won the division or anything since he's been there. I'm here to say that they're the best, talking about Bama, not because they win the most, of course. That's part of it too. But they do it the right way, Spurrier said Monday night. They play hard. They play clean. They don't try to hurt their opponents. They don't give the interception change. They don't do all that other stuff that other teams like to do now, it seems like. But they play the game the way it should be played. If you beat them, you've earned it, and that's the way it should be. Nick Saban, Spurrier sounded on. Did you notice that little personal dig, Mason? He took a little noodle at him and said they hadn't beat much of anybody. So, oh man, and to that point, C.J. Watson says, "Here's a Jimbo stat for you, Martin. After 48 games, Kevin Sumlin's record was 34-14. You know what Jimbo's record is in those same 48 games, Mason? 34-14.
All right. Yeah, I knew it had to be close.
It's the exact same record. But what's his name? CJ said, but I bet the financial difference is around 20 million during that time. Again, hey, Jim, I would tell you that you're way off, CJ. That's just how much difference they've paid the coach. They guaranteed him $7.5 million per year for the entirety of the contract. Right? Was not his entire $75 million guaranteed? So, yeah, I think Jimbo's entire contract was guaranteed $7.5 million. And so, what's his name was probably making $4 million or something like that. Let's say he was making $5 million. If he made $5 million, that would be $20 million over 5 years. While what's his name has $35 million, and that's not counting all of the upgrades in the facilities. That's not counting all of the NIL deals that they bumped up last year. That's not counting new stadium. They're not counting any of that. That's not counting how much more. If Jimbo's making $7.5 million, you know the assistant coaches are making more. So there's a lot more money tied up in this staff, the facilities, and the NIL than it was under Sumlin. And by the way, I think Sumlin beat Saban as well, right?
He did. Johnny Manziel.
Okay, I thought so too. Yeah.
It's worth. I didn't realize this also, but apparently Jimbo, he signed an extension through 2031 last year, and now is making $9 million a year.
And all guaranteed. So there we go. For what? He's won nothing. He's never won a division.
This quote from the Texas A&M athletic director at the time is fantastic. It says, Coach Fisher continues to demonstrate he is building our program for long-term success and is the perfect fit for Texas A&M.
Well, there
What long-term success?
It's coming, Mason. Let's go to George. George, you're in with the Martin Houston Show on the Alabama One Hotline. What's on your mind, sir?
Martin, I was kind of happy. He ain't one nothing. He has. I mean, you know what Coach Saban says? Play with emotion, but don't be emotional.
Yeah.
Maybe Jimbo Fisher didn't quite get the gist of that when he was coaching LSU.
That's right.
Granted, I think something will be done because Sankey, I was so glad to see that he finally dove into the middle of this the other day. And something will get done with it, because he is the most powerful commissioner. Plus, all the other schools really don't like what Jimbo and Texas A&M and Texas are doing. So I think something will be done.
And let me say this, Mason. Let me say this, George. Do you not think that these other coaches may have even talked Saban into saying this? Because everybody seems to understand. Everybody needs to understand that there's a lot more teams who can't compete with A&M in terms of the oil money versus if there are teams out there right now that if they wanted to, they could spend more money on recruiting like Alabama does if they decide to go down that path, right? But there's not any teams other than maybe Texas and potentially Oklahoma maybe that can stick with A&M when it comes to oil money, but no one else can.
No, they can't.
And so they rather Saban speak up about it now.
I guarantee. I agree with you. Something's got to be done now. And plus, there's only probably about 5 or 6 other schools that can't match the oil money, but they do have money. Ohio State, Michigan, those schools that have really large enrollment for the last 15 to 20 years that have a lot of alumni.
Yep.
They can't match what Texas and Texas A&M do, but they can compete. So Alabama is going to compete. They can't compete with the money, but it's not like we're going to have chopped liver recruits. We don't have to do if something isn't done. Like you were saying, all those 7-star defensive linemen that Texas A&M has, after about 2 years, they're going to want to transfer, and we'll recruit them.
Hey, let me
develop them mature a little bit.
I have to find. I have to get Ryan Fowler to resend me an article. This is what nobody's hasn't brought up, mate. George is they did the Athletic did a story on the 5 stars that go to the NFL draft. Nick Saban, and this I'll get the exact numbers, but say that there was 20 first rounders, 25 stars, and that's what they project. The reason they give a 5-star, you may not know this, George, is they say this is a guy who projects as a first rounder. That's how they give them a 5-star. Okay. Right. Nick Saban has had more when they took the top programs. He has had more first rounders from the 5 stars in the last 3 years. Since 19.
It's like 60%, Mark.
No, it was a little higher than that. That were like of all of them. But what I was gonna say is he had more go than all the other schools combined in the first round. Like Georgia has only had like 2 first rounders until this class, and this class wasn't counted in that. This was up to this point. And so what I'm saying is kids, you may have a little spike and it may be a little bit of an adjustment, but kids are going to start realizing 5 stars have been going to other programs ever since this thing started. And none of them are consistently developing them into first rounders, except for Alabama. So yeah, they may go there out of high school, but they ain't gonna stay there when they start seeing that they're not developing into these first rounders. That's part of it. But here's what Kirby Smart said, and I know you're a Georgia guy, so listen to from the state of Georgia. Kirby said, I just want to make sure that the game stays at a point where we can control it, said Smart on the Feinbaum show. I am all for players, same thing Nick Saban said, I'm for NIL. We had a lot of players getting opportunity with name, image, and likeness. Supposed to be a college thing. I would just like it were a decision isn't based on where I'm going to the highest bidder. He's saying that I don't want it to become where the high school kids are getting recruited based on the highest bidder. Like the Alabama recruit came back to Alabama and said, what? Hey, A&M just offered me a deal. What are you going to do to match it? If we could control that, what's that? The highest bidder for high school recruits. It would be much better. All Nick Saban said is what Kirby Smart said, is we don't want bidding wars for high school kids.
Jimbo Fisher, I've never really liked him because he's got that northern staccato speech pattern, but now I really don't like him. But there was something you said last week or week before last, I guess it was last week, somebody took a survey of the alumni that give, and half of them said they would never give, to just give to a player, they want to give to the school.
Yep.
And I gotta believe that rings true to most schools. Now, one thing that Tennessee and Texas A&M have in common is they're desperate to be relative again, so they're hard to go outside the lines and do crazy things.
And you just hit it. Their alumni right now are giving out of desperation. I didn't even know that giving him a $9 million extension. But Greg Armstrong says this, I still say it shines a light on Jimbo's lack of excellence. Mr. 9-3, 8-4 is being paid huge money. Texas A&M has poured almost $1 billion into their facilities and paying these players and paying Jimbo and their coaching staff. Jimbo knows he's capitalize expected to win, capitalize big. So that right there tells you that. But here's my point, George. If Nick Saban was cheating like Jimbo said before, why didn't Saban cheat some this year? Because no one has come out and said Nick Saban bought players out of high school this year. So if Nick Saban has been cheating under the table to get players to come to Alabama, why didn't he use that same process when he could have used it above the board this year?
Mark, my opinion is this. If Nick Saban was buying players 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years ago, with all the Alabama fatigue and all the Alabama haters, sports writers that are outside of Alabama, they would have found it out and they would have brought it up. Don't you think?
Yes.
I mean, it's hard to keep a secret, especially like that.
Yeah.
So that's why I say that Alabama hasn't done that, because, I mean, most of the national reporters hate Alabama because they've won so much.
Absolutely.
Right? The ones that are on TV, college hours, Nick Saban made the wrong step, this, that, and the other.
Hey.
For about a year or two, he's proven wrong.
All right. Hey, thanks, George. Hey, and here's the thing. We had a comment come up about how Jimbo handled his most high-profile player. We may have that conversation tomorrow, Mason. Because Jimbo talked about how he does things right. Anybody remember a player named Jameis Winston? Where did he play college ball at, and who's his coach? Hey, we may have that conversation. Was Jimbo faking it like Rhett Dennis said? Was that a lot of fake outrage? We'll talk about that. We'll talk about it with DC Capstone Report on tomorrow. Remember this, trust in the Lord always, lean not your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your path. Roll Tide, everybody. Have a great day and have a blessed day.